We live,
guess-
George?
It's 9 o'clock,
Morning.
yeah?
Yep.
Was that a yes, George?
Yep.
Okay. Trying to see how much people we have here. You're letting them in now.
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, commissioners. Aloha. Thank you for coming to our meeting today. There on the Big Island in Hilo. We have two of our commissioners there. Let's begin with a roll call real quick on who's physically in the Hilo location. Martha Tornay,
Here,
Ronnie Barra.
Here.
Online is myself, Mark Patterson, Mike Town,
Here.
and Mark Browning.
Here.
Good. All commissioners are here today. Thank you. You all survived the legislative session. Of course, we all watch from the sidelines now. I like it. Before we even go into the approval of the minutes, I want to ask for a motion to move the number 4 item, the monthly update from the DCR, from Tommy Johnson, and change it to right after item number 9.
Second.
so moved and second.
Martha moved and Mark seconded that the position on the agenda number 4 to number 9. Tommy Johnson might be a little bit late, so we moved him to the rear of the meeting so that he can make it and do his report. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say. Motion carried. Thank you. I'll take a motion for the minutes, please.
So moved.
Wait a minute, we do have to make one change. It has Ronnie Barr as virtually attending the meeting. He was there in person.
Okay, can I get the second first?
Second.
Okay, been moved by Mike Town and seconded by Mark Browning that we approve the minutes of April 17th. Further discussion, I heard that we need to revise the presence of Ronnie Barr.
Yes.
Yes, all you have to do is take out the word virtual next to my name because I was there present.
Okay. I just went blank. So we're gonna vote on the minutes with the change.
Right.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carried. George, you make the corrections for us, yes?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, if you look at item number 5, vote on the adoption of the Oversight Coordinator's Parental Leave Transitional Plan. This is the plan that was put together once by the Oversight Coordinator on how the commission will be handled in her absence while she's on maternity leave. I would like to say that she's doing well, another little baby boy, and that we have already transitioned. Now, if you see it, she's as she does, very intentional on all the aspects of her roles and how it needs to be accomplished, written in the plan. The plan, George, just to confirm, is on the website.
Yes, correct, Chair.
Okay, the plan is on the website. The baby, as always, came suddenly. And so we've already implemented portions of this plan. Myself and Martha had agreed to take over, portions of the oversight coordinator's responsibilities, and we have been meeting every Monday since birth and having discussions with the staff. Martha, you want anything to say?
Nope. Just one thing. My term ends June 30th of this year. So with the speaker who I was appointed by Scott Psyche in the past, Nadine has agreed to keep me on as a holdover for the implementation of this plan. So I will be stepping down most likely on September 30th instead of June 30th.
Okay, thank you for that information. Commissioners, wait, hold on. Any questions you have on the transitional plan? Those meetings that we have Monday nights, Mondays at 10:30 is with me, Martha, George, and our two investigators. I don't hear, George, I'm going blank because I know we're going to have to take a vote, but should I ask for testimony at this time?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm open the floor up to anyone online if they have any questions or testimony they'd like to give in regards to the parental leave transitional plan from the Oversight Coordinator on how the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission will be managed in her absence at this time. In the room, Martha?
Excuse me? Oh,
Is
do you have
there
any
anyone in the room
questions
have
about
anything
that
to say?
transition? No questions in the room.
George, no one online?
That is correct, Chair. Nobody online.
Okay. I'll take a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded by, moved by Martha and seconded by Ron that we accept the Oversight Coordinator's parental leave transition plan at this time. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Once again, that parental leave transition plan is on the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission website. Let's move on to item 6. I don't think it's officially over, but it's still ongoing in terms of the legislative and private.
No, it's over. It's
Is it?
over.
Okay,
Yeah.
Martha's going to give us a summary of everything that we had hoped for and what happened.
Okay, so these will be the primary bills that we submitted testimony on. First of all, the state budget, we didn't have any requests, but we will ask Director Johnson to provide us with an update as to the department's budget and how they did with that. HB 1516 was pretrial release and it was bail based on defendant's ability to pay. It passed out as CD1, but it died on the Senate floor, so it did not move any further. HB 2413, pretrial reform. Own recognizance for lesser offenses requires findings when bail or detention is imposed, prompt hearing if bail cannot be posted. And that also died on the Senate floor. It did not make it to conference. HB 1628, compassionate release, establishes protocol for compassionate release. That is the one that did not pass conference. That others were interested in having us contact legislators, but unfortunately it died in conference and there's really nothing we could have done to change that. SB 2688 was the Senate bill on compassionate release, and that died. The Senate did not assign conferees to that. Both of these bills had made it to conference, but one died in conference and the other, the Senate never assigned any appointees, so it wasn't even heard in conference. HB 1518, SNAP benefits, allows incarcerated persons to apply for SNAP prior to release and includes persons with drug convictions to apply as long as they comply with treatment. There is a way that the state can request exemptions from the federal government to allow those who are convicted of drug convictions to receive SNAP. And CD1 passed and was sent to the floor vote, and it passed on the floor. So we will be submitting comments and recommendations on that bill. HB 2044, offender reentry, extends programming and training, and it was never referred to the Senate. HB 2356, offender reentry, requires the department to provide certificate of rehabilitation. And again, it came out of the House, but it was never referred to the Senate. And we had concerns about that bill anyway, about how how the department would be able to issue a certificate saying someone passed a course. I mean, what does it mean? HB 1769, correctional facilities, requires the department to incrementally return inmates from private out-of-state correctional facilities. Went to conference, but again, House did not assign conferees, so it wasn't heard. SB 2030, corrections, body cameras for ACOs. The House did not assign conferees, so it went to conference but was not heard. SB 2862, gubernatorial appointments, requires non-civil servant appointees to obtain the advice and consent of the Senate, and that died in the Senate. That would have affected Kristen's position. SCR 89, which is the commission to do an advisory committee, requests that the commission establish an advisory committee concerning implementation of alternative models of rehabilitation and restorative justice. This was adopted by the Senate and the House. It has been the practice of the governor's office, and I presume this is still true, that they respond to concurrent resolutions. In the past, if it was single house resolution, because there were so many, the governor would not require a response to them. But this is a concurrent resolution, so we will be following up with this. And that's what I have to report. I think now you get testimony from the floor. I don't see Kat in. She was in for a while.
Have
I
any,
can't get my camera working.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so comments. I think it's time for testimony from the floor. Yeah, is that correct? Yeah.
Ken, if anyone wants to make comments on the legislative session and their experience, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, hearing none.
Leah has
Thank
her hand up. Leah Kinney.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't see you, Leah.
Thank you. I haven't been following very closely, but with the compassionate release, I think that was SC 30. I don't know which number it was, but it's affecting my brother who's in protective custody at Halava Correctional Facility. He had heard that there was some legislation that would require DCR to address people in protective custody, in effect, being solitary confinement. And so I'm wondering, is that kind of embedded in that compassionate release? And if so, you guys have plans for how you're going to capture those who are being held in it's basically administrative segregation, but it functions as solitary confinement.
Well, first of all, Leah, the compassionate release bill relates to inmates who are seriously ill and often facing death, to get them out so they don't die in prison. So it wouldn't affect people who are in restrictive housing. The bill that passed last year would affect those in restrictive housing. And I'm not as well versed on it as others are. Kat may be someone who could. Kat, can you give a better review of the of the restrictive housing law as it was passed last year?
Well, that's still in flux because there's a working group working on solitary confinement. But I can say about compassionate release that the changes that were made in conference were things that everybody agreed on. And then at the last minute, somebody in the Senate didn't show up for the last hearing, and that was that. So it never passed because it didn't have quorum.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very unfortunate. I mean, it is the game of politics, and that's what it was. It was a game of politics. It was not that somebody was voting against compassionate release. It had to do with power between the House and the Senate.
And Tommy had agreed to the changes that were made.
Yeah.
Also,
So we'll
I
try
just wanted
again.
to mention on
Restricted housing?
No, on bail, pretrial release, HB 1516 is a bill that is really simple, basically saying if somebody is, receiving state benefits, that should not be counted as part of their income. So it was really kind of a bill that didn't really do anything except to say, stop incarcerating poor people at $307 a day. And it was recommitted on the floor. And that was really, I was there, it was really heartbreaking. but such is politics, and
Yeah.
we'll be back next year. That's all I can say. We don't give up. So
So anyway, to get back to what Leah's request was about the
solitary.
solitary. I wish I could give you more information right now, Leah, but I will go over the current law. Again, I don't know as much as Kat knows because I'm not part of this working group, but we'll come up with some information for you about the implementation of the law. So it's not implemented yet, but it
Yeah.
did pass last year.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
So, Leo, real quick, and I don't have the information in front of me, so I'm going off the top of my head. Myself and the oversight coordinator since last year was taking part in the working group that has been mentioned on administrative segregation. And we did do a presentation. George, I'm wondering if that PowerPoint is on our website. I'm not sure. But we did do a presentation to the leadership, who included Representative Bellotti and Senator Nakamura. So those are the two leaders leading that working group at this time, trying to educate themselves on the many complex aspects of administrative segregation. Should we find some information we think might be of use for you, we can send it to you. Okay?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 7. Oversight Coordinator Report. So, real quick, on Wednesday, April 8th, 2026, at approximately 11:01 p.m., facility staff at the state contracted facility Saguaro Correctional Center in Arizona received notification from a local hospital that a Japanese male, 63 years old, was pronounced deceased after an extended stay within their care. An autopsy was performed on April 9th, 2026, and the medical examiner report concluded that the individual passed due to natural causes. Okay. Our team continues to participate in events within our correctional community and reentry community at celebrating the 17th annual parole completion, sponsored by Hawaii Friends of Restorative Justice, Lauren Walker's group. We went on a tour of Kauai Correctional Community Center last month. Yeah. And the gist of this coordinator's report, I want to just, briefly, it is on the website. I want you folks to look at it. It's really outlining the complaints that the commission has been receiving and how much we're working at with this time. Since we've been able to pick up our, I think it's been less than 2 years that we've had a jail investigator, and we just picked up the prison investigator. So we've had a lot of backlog since 2019 when we started, but we have closed 72. We do have 111 cases that are open, and we have 231 that are pending. So those are high numbers. Now that we have the investigative staff, so people are writing to us. Some of that can be misleading because it could be double, complaints with the same thing. But we are learning to teach ourselves how to manage a complaint system, that it has to include a database so we can track them and really try to look at the patterns that we're seeing. We are noticing that some of the complaints are not within the jurisdiction of the Oversight Commission, primarily with complaints against parole and their sentencing. But we are looking at how we can be an advocate for those complaints, but technically they don't fall under our mandate. And that's another matter we can discuss as a commission. So that's currently where we are. We are seeing most of our complaints coming out of the state of Arizona, and the least of our complaints coming out of Waiava. Yeah. Any further, folks want to look more into it, please refer to the website. We're also continuing to look at the lack of movement through the system in regards to the monthly population counts that we get, and we all continually see that Waiava and Kulani remain to be at less than half capacity. And so we're continually working with DCR to figure out a way to move bodies quicker through the system. With that being said, that's most of the report that I feel is good to be said at this time. The rest can be read. If you have any questions, let me know.
Mark,
Yes.
I work with a mediation group, and people write that have any concern, and I want to commend our staff and people. They want to be heard. If they send a letter to my mediation staff, I just forward it to Kristen, and it seems to be pretty seamless and pretty open. So I'm very appreciative that people who are concerned get heard.
Thank you, Mike. I think the oversight coordinator is putting together a good program. It's just us catching our wind and trying to learn the best way to manage the complaints that are coming in at this time. Any other comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, let's move on to item number eight.
Open it up for testimony. Mark, open it up, the
Any
oversight
questions on the
coordinator
Oversight Commission?
or comments.
Any questions or comments from the public or in the room on the
Carrie Ann has one.
okay, I'm sorry, yeah. Go ahead, Carrie Ann.
Aloha, Commissioners. Carrie Ann Shirota. I wanted to comment. I saw that in the Oversight Coordinator's report, there is a reference, and you just read out that there was a death at Saguaro. And I think it is really important to look at the patterns, especially in light of the fact that our compassionate release bill tragically died at the very end of the session. But since the beginning of this year, when we look at the individuals who have died, it includes 6. Of the 6, one was between the ages of 20 and 30. And the list, it says cause unknown, although I have information to believe that was foul play and relating to gangs. The other 5 individuals that died were between the ages, one was between the age of 50 and 60. The other 4 were between the ages of 60 and 70 years old. So if we're looking at the patterns and the number of people, we're looking at kupuna who are dying unnecessarily in our jails and prisons. And so I just want to bring this to the forefront because many community members came out in strong support of compassionate release. And even though we don't know the details about these individuals' situation, a few of them were in hospitals, either in Arizona or Polymomie or Queens. And so these are individuals that should be either receiving care in the community, nursing homes, or with their loved ones, dying with dignity and having time with their ohana. And the fact that 5 out of the 6 are kupuna, it just makes me very sad. And I know for many of us in the community, I can only imagine the grief that their families are experiencing and not having that time together. So we can definitely work on that and do better. And with that, I just want to say that at the very end, I understand, even though I didn't see the letter, that the Department of Corrections, Hawaii Patrolling Authority, and the Oversight Commission wrote a joint letter in support of an agreement on the CD1 of the Compassionate Release Bill. And so I do want to applaud that effort to work together to advance this measure, and that hopefully we will come back next year and get it to the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Just a
No more.
reminder, and thank you for bringing that up, Carrie Ann, in regards to patterns and what's happened so far in 2026. And we've said it before in previous meetings, Commissioner. We are conducting the death in custody. We're looking at from 2000 to today. And we do have a lot of information that will cause a lot of questions. But right now, the delay of the report, to my understanding, is really trying to open up a collaborative relationship with the medical examiner. Okay, we are waiting for a lot of autopsy reports at this time. Okay, so I just want to let Carrie Ann and those of you in the community concerned with the patterns of death in custody that it is an ongoing project for us, and that's kind of where we at this particular point in time. the oversight coordinator is the one that was really leading the charge on that with Alec Jameson, our one of our jail investigator. So maybe next weekend, I'm sorry, the next meeting, we'll try to have a more updated report on that death in custody project for everyone. But thank you for bringing that to our attention, Carrie Ann.
Can I say something? This
Go
is
ahead, Kat.
Well, it's interesting that most of the complaints are coming from Saguaro, because I have been deluged with letters about the Hawaii monitor there, who has interfered with mail, with medical care, and basically acts like she's running the facility. She intervenes in grievances, things that are not in her scope. And I was wondering if the commission would actually ask that she come to Hawaii and do a public briefing with the legislature about what her role is and how she actually performs that role. I have lots of documentation on things that she's done that are just not within her scope of practice. And I'm really concerned because I think a lot of the letters probably have something to do with that. So she's paid by taxpayer money, and yet we have no say about what goes on. And I've heard that monitors from other places have actually intervened because she's been so out of control. So that's a request I'm making to the commission, that the commission works with the legislature to hold a public information briefing. Apparently she comes to Hawaii once a year to hold a public information briefing with the Hawaii monitor, especially because we're getting so many complaints. I am, many other people in the community are, and the Oversight Commission is. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat.
Thank you, Kat. We want to move on to our next item, which is the overview of the Kauai Community Correctional Center tour. Go ahead, Martha. Thank you.
Okay, the tour took place on Friday, April 17th. I was not there because I have an injury to my knee, but others attended the tour. The commission was joined by members of the prosecutor's staff on the tour. So they appreciated having the contact with the prosecutor's office and that they were there. The facility is running right now at 66% capacity with 85 individuals held there. You may be aware from previous reports that there were containers built for COVID. And when we were there in 2024, they were being used for women's housing. And we were concerned about that because they often were left in their containers for extended periods of time, and they were very restrictive in those containers. So when we went in May of 2025, they were not being used at all, which was a real advantage. Well, they're being used again now, and they're being used for the mentally ill population. And so my understanding is that when the commission visit, there was an ACO assigned to be outside with those people in those containers. In the past, we had found that the ACOs were intermittently assigned to the containers, so they weren't there all the time. So it's important that, especially if you have people with behavioral problems or mental health problems, that they have someone on site all the time. The commission, let's see, when you go, hold on, having a little bit of trouble with this. Okay, the shipping containers I just discussed. Module A. Module A is the oldest part of the facility that was opened in 1977. And it consists of 4 units of 3 cells each. And the rated capacity is, or our capacity is 2 people per cell. In fact, though, there are people once again living in the very tiny day rooms in front of these cells. So in unit 2, there were 2 people living in the day room or assigned the day room. And in unit 4, there were 3 people assigned in the day room. Those day rooms, very small day rooms, should not be used for housing at all. But in part, this is due to something else I'll be talking about in just a minute, another unit being closed. The secure beds are for those who are classified as medium. And with most pretrial inmates, they were automatically medium because we feel that, I shouldn't say we feel, but it was assumed that the judges would have put them out onto OR or something else if they didn't feel they had some problems in the community. So they should be classified as medium, and that's why they're found in these housing units. I asked Ron to review very quickly the law library, which is located in the secure area.
Yes, the law library is located in Module A, and we did not have any complaints about accessibility. The sign up, we looked at the sign up sheet. There were people signed up for appointments. There are sufficient legal resources available. The only thing we did not see is the commissioner's report and the oversight commissioner's report in the law library. So we told them to be sure to
Make that available.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and one concern was that Module A is a male living unit, and so there was concern whether the females got in there, but
Yeah.
you're,
No complaints
No
about
complaints.
accessibility.
okay. There are 3 holding cells that are located in the administrative area with windows along the hallway, and therefore administrative segregation and suicide watch. If anybody's on suicide watch, there has to be a correctional officer assigned right outside their cell. The commission did observe an exchange in the holding area between staff and one of the inmates that reflected the ongoing personal dynamics that we experience all the time at Kauai. The relationship between the staff and those who are incarcerated is it's a positive one. It works well. But I was very surprised when we did the staffing report to find out that they were the most demoralized staff, and it turned out because of the excessive amount of overtime they're required due to staffing shortages. But still, they're able to maintain a good relationship between staff and inmates. Module B was added in 1986 and is made up of larger cells that have a capacity of 4 inmates per cell. And again, in each one of those, there's 4 4-person cells, and then there's a very large day room in the center. But we're finding that the staff does not want to mix people from one cell with another cell, so they'll only let people out of their cells for 2 hours out of the day. And so that's more or less bordering on restrictive housing by not allowing them out more than that. And we will continue to work with the facility about the need to have people have more out of cell time. And again, some of them, even 6-person or 4 people was the capacity, but we found that some had more than 4 people in their cell. Module C has been closed, and Module C was the minimum security housing. It is an L-shaped building with cubicles, and it has been closed in part for renovations. They've done the renovations, but it really is due to staffing shortage and the low number of individuals who are classified as minimum to be appropriate in that housing. So again, this is something we will continue to work with the facility on to see if we can have more inmates in minimum custody. But again, staffing has been a major problem on Kauai, which once again underscores how positive the relationship is between the staff and the inmates, even given that. Cabins A, B, and C, and many of you realize that these cabins have been on the ground since soon after Hurricane Iniki. They're not in the best of conditions, but that is really community-based housing. And they continue to be used for both men and women. The kitchen, a new kitchen has finally arrived and been connected at KCCC. It is not a new mess hall. It is just a kitchen. And now they're working on fixing the mess hall and then attaching it, I think, to the existing kitchen. Now, in the past, the refrigerators and freezers have been outside. That is not unique just to Kauai. And my understanding is they continue to be outside the kitchen itself, the refrigerators and their freezers. So it means that you do have to step outside. Let's see, there was some comment about, hold on. No, I can't find. There was some concern about the kitchen where it opened up to, that it when you go. I'm sorry, I don't have those notes in front of me. Mark, do you have any other comments about the kitchen?
No, it's still work in progress. When Commissioner Torney says that they just fixed the kitchen, it's really they just created a new cooking area. Yeah,
Yeah.
about the size of a Matson container, and it's way better than what it used to. That is way better than what they had, and the safety issues are no longer safety issues that we had with the kitchen that was falling apart. However, in the current the way that it's managed, the old kitchen still had access from within the facility to access the kitchen, whereas now they need to go outside and enter from a back area. They're still within the perimeter, but it still takes a lot of not transportation, moving inmates around and out within the perimeter to get to the opening of the kitchen, as well as for the refrigeration management. It's the same
Okay,
area. Go
I
ahead.
did find the note on that. The note is the new kitchen faces a perimeter fence, which could provide a security concern. The
Yes.
perimeter fence line is also secured with a padlock. Additionally, the refrigerated food are kept outside due to limited space.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I did find that.
So,
Okay, so again, what continues to be a major problem on Kauai is the staffing shortages, and we have recommended in the past, and I hope this can be done, but this would have to be done in cahoots with DHERD, the personnel department at the state level, and that is we would like to see that Kauai can themselves hire emergency hires and expedite that process, because they have had some successful emergency hires that have transferred to full-time positions, and this would help fill up the gaps. And let's see. Oh, and we've recommended over a number of years, because of the difficulty with staffing, is if the state could at least try 12-hour shifts on Kauai, that may attract more people to work in the facilities. And that's pretty much all I have.
one of the positive things about this past tour of the Kauai Community Correctional Center, and yes, they have been experiencing issues with their staffing, but unlike the other jails, there seems to be a lot of collaboration going on the island in Kauai County between DCR, the judiciary, law enforcement, as their population is way down. Yeah, very impressive that the population is down. We were privileged to be asked by the county's prosecutor to come with us into the facility with her reentry specialist, and really liked her ideas. And she just really wanted to know meet the commissioners and discuss with us options for diversion of the mental health issues that are going on right now on the island of Kauai. So it was very refreshing to speak to a prosecutor who was concerned with overcrowding of the jails and then seeking answers for diversion for the populations that she's having most issues with in regards to the jail. Yeah. So, Martha, you have that name in front of you?
The what? The names of the people
Yeah.
that attended?
It's on
Yeah,
the
it's in
first
the
page.
front. Hold on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Becky Leak.
Becky Like and Michael Miranda.
Those Becky Lake was the prosecutor, very impressive, and Mr. Miranda was her reentry specialist. So the fact that they had a reentry specialist is telling. Yeah.
Mark,
Yes, Mike.
who is the warden now in Kauai? Is it still Jerry Jonah, or who is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Jerry.
Good. And he knows, he comes out of the ranks. The question I had was padding on the floor of the kitchen in that whole area, so it's not hard on the feet, the ankles, the backs. Is there now padding in the new kitchen?
I believe that the kitchen is stocked with the normal. Martha, I want to say they all have those rubber.
Yep.
Yeah, with the pukas
Yeah, they all
inside
have
so the
that.
water falls through. So that I did see that, Mike, when we were there, that it wasn't just a hard floor. They did have the matting on it.
Yeah, because I think that's an OSHA
Yes.
and safety problem. Good, thank you.
Yep.
And now that I see Tommy is on board again, Tommy, I don't know when you joined us, But I will say that Module B on Kauai continues to be concerned about the amount of times the inmates spend in their cells, that they're only allowed into the day room for 2 hours per day, occasionally to get an extra hour. So that is restrictive housing once you get to that point. So I just wanted to stress that to make sure you heard that part, Tommy. Thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you, Martha, for that report. We want to move on to our earlier realigning our agenda. Tommy, good morning. Thank
Good
you for
morning.
being here. I'll give you the floor at this time.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a number of updates. So I'll give you a brief update, but Sana Munoz Stepar will provide a more detailed update next month. We were awarded a a JAG grant of $156,000 plus for an initiative that we're doing with our intake service center to develop a pretrial assessment instrument that we hope will give the courts a better feeling that they will then release more folks from pretrial confinement, and if necessary, to electronic monitoring. That way, maybe we can free up some of the pretrial bed space in our jails. So it's a pilot project. This will be the first year they started. We just got the notification of the award, but we think that's a step in the right direction. The second thing is we're working with the facilities, the prisons, to look at having the Makahiki ceremony, the opening and closing this year at all of the prison facilities. But we do have some stringent requirements based on the settlement agreement with the federal government that we have to follow with respect to the items that are allowed. So we're currently working with a Native Hawaiian group who helped out with the Makahiki at Kulani to help, and also in Arizona, to help us spread the wealth, for lack of a better term, across the prison statewide. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. The
Tommy,
biggest update we have, go ahead.
Can I ask a question about that? You said settlement agreement. What settlement agreement is this?
There was a settlement agreement in the early 2000s. I gave it to Christian, the settlement agreement and a modified settlement agreement. Inmates in Arizona have filed suit regarding the ability to access Hawaiian cultural programs, and particularly the Makahiki. Inmate Homegrown was one of the inmates, if I'm not mistaken. And so there was a settlement agreement of what the state would be required to do with respect to the Makahiki. And I think it was the Native Hawaiian Corporation, legal corporation.
Yeah, legal
was
corporation.
part of the lawsuit. So they came to a settlement agreement with the federal government, and we've been following that ever since. And so we're just looking at now during the same Makahiki opening and closing ceremonies here in the prisons.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the biggest changes to the OCCC project. So there's a couple of changes. One, I notified the commission previously that we had decided to remove the CTC from the new OCCC site and to instead raise and rebuild the Lamaka Work Furlough Center, rename that to the Lamaka Reintegration Center, and then increase the bed space to 240 beds. So that would mean all the folks in Module 20, when the construction was completed, would move over, and we would consolidate operations to have the intake service center, Oahu Intake Service Center, at that same location, so we could do the community supervision, reintegration all in one location. And so we think that would be a more efficient use of our resources and operations, and it'll give us the bed space capacity to move people downstream faster. We just have to get them there, to be honest.
So the capacity of the current Lamaka is 96, correct?
Right. Yeah.
And so what did you say the final bed count would be in the new facility?
240.
240.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So that includes, I want to make it clear, that includes also the 90 possible beds out of Module 20. There's 45 and 45 on each side. Right now, we're only using one side of that because we have some records that the FBI wanted to review stored on the other side. So we're increasing the bed space capacity up to 240. We think that's a decent number, and that also will help us move people faster from Waiava and Kulani downstream. The biggest change to OCCC is while we're proceeding with the project to request the funding next year, we're reducing the bed space to 700, but we're going to put in a complete infrastructure for the 1,000 beds so that if we do have to build on later, then we have that infrastructure already there, which will save tens of millions of dollars. Now, this is based on two things. One, we're negotiating with the Bureau of Prisons to increase our bed space capacity at the FDC. And two, if bail reform does take place, by the time the facility is completed, then we may not need 1,000 beds. So it gives us the option that one, we have the 700 plus beds we'll need for sure. If bail reform takes place, by the time the facility is built, then we may not have to build onto it, but we'll have the capacity to. And so there should be no discussion about the department's building a super jail, because we're not. We're actually trying to methodically figure out where the needs are and build the facility that we need that'll fit our needs moving down the line. There's a lot of misinformation out there about the department building a super jail, that we've only based it on the population today. No, we've done the population projections. We'll update the population projections. We're doing a lot more than what the public can see, but unfortunately, we need to do a better job of getting that information out there. So now that we have the concurrent resolution 60 that requires the request that we do a quarterly update on the OCCC project, frankly, I don't think there'll be much change quarterly because of the nature of the project, but we will provide the first update in a forum in July, as requested in the SCR. I guess what we need to do is figure out from the introducers of the SCR, what exactly are you looking for in the way of information that will be put out. So we want to make sure we get it correctly and we provide the information that they want released out to the public and to anybody who would participate. It'll be a public forum. So we're looking at trying to schedule the Capitol Auditorium for those presentations.
Do we currently have anybody or have an agreement with the Federal Detention Center?
We have an MOA for up to 100 beds. The problem is their requirements are so stringent that they tend to not take 8 out of 10 people we refer to them. So I'm trying to schedule a meeting with the warden now. I have a call into the Bureau of Prisons because actually the MOA is signed out of DC, not at the facility level.
Yeah.
So I want to try to figure out if we can meet with them to discuss, one, increase in the bed space capacity, and two, the rate is a little over $135 a day at the FDC with annual increases of 2 to 4%, which is determined by the Bureau of Prisons. So to work with them to see, okay, to change the language of the MOU to figure out what type of offender will they take. So right now, they will take those sentence misdemeanors and sentence felons. So we're trying to figure out what is that category that they won't take, and two, their medication formulary is different than the states. So we're going to try to work with them on a medication formulary, and then we of course have to do all the transports, the court transports that need to take place. They won't do the transports for us.
Okay, so do we currently have anybody at the Federal Detention Center?
We may have one.
Okay.
And that's only because the feds picked him up and took him there.
And is it what, he has an ICE detainer or something?
No, he was the inmate recently indicted by the federal government. In the article you might have seen where the FBI we're working with the FBI on an investigation into drug going into Halava. So he was the inmate that was indicted. He was picked up by the U.S. Marshals and transferred. And I want to make it clear that it's not the only investigation we have going with respect to contraband coming into the facilities.
So now he sounds like he's a federal pretrialer, so hopefully you're not paying for him.
No, we're not paying for him. Once they picked him up with the writ, then he belongs to them.
Yeah, yeah. And I do have a question about replacing Lamaka. When you're replacing Lamaka, what are you going to do for the male furlough program on Oahu?
We're going to move them. We're going to move them to Module 20 because Module 20 is underutilized now.
Okay.
And we will move them out of Module 20. You might have to spread out a little bit into another module, but I'm working with John Snell, the warden of OCCC, on when that time comes, we phase them over and then do the build as quickly as possible. So I want to make it clear, the raising and rebuilding of the MACA will take priority over OCCC because we need to have those bed spaces in place before the facility is built.
Okay, thank you.
Martha and Tommy, I have a brief question.
Sure.
Tommy, FDC is operated pretty much by Bureau of Prisons, the feds, is that right?
Yeah, they own it, yes.
Okay, and when I was on the parole commission, we got into misunderstandings, or I wasn't sure. Food, light, exercise, because it's a silo. Doesn't have a. Are you comfortable, or are we comfortable that people's health is being taken care of in the FDC, or is it a standalone situation?
Well, I think the only concern I have with the FTC, to be honest with you, one, is that they don't have a lot of programming at the FTC because it's
Right.
a detention facility. And two, in our discussions with BOP, we may have to somehow augment the healthcare staff there. And then the last thing I'm concerned is, of course, we might have to create an additional transportation team because they don't do transports for us. So depending on the number of inmates we put there and what their court schedules look like, we might have to create one or two more transport teams. But that would only be temporary because if, again, we're building the OCCC out for 1,000 bed capacity, but we're reducing the actual bed-based capacity to 700. So if bail reform takes place, as I suspect at some point it will, and then OCCC is not scheduled to be done completion until late 2031, early 2032, then no harm, no foul, because now we don't have 300 extra beds but we have the capacity to go there, and we have a place for the inmates for the short-term inmates to be, which is the FDC. I think for us, we need to look at what are those guys that do not need a lot of programming, who are relatively healthy, whose medical needs can be met. Those would be the ones we would look at transferring to the FDC temporarily. It wouldn't be the guys who have a lot of medical needs. We would keep them at Halava. And I wanted to make it clear too, and I should have mentioned this earlier, so my apologies. Even though we're reducing the bed space capacity down to a little over 700, we're keeping the infirmary and the medical beds the same because we see that our population of folks coming in with mental health and medical issues needing to be more in an infirmary setting. So what you're going to see is, yeah, go ahead. I thought I heard someone say something. Okay. So if
No,
you
that
look at,
my phone decided to ring. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. If you look at, I've been working with Christian on the population of minimums at Halava. There's a good sized population of over 60 who are in an infirmary setting who can't move on to a lower level facility because they need a level of care at the FDC. So what we're trying to do is create a large enough infirmary and medical bed setting at the new OCCC to fit the needs of all those folks coming in. Right now, if you've been to OCCC, we don't have a true infirmary. We have a corner somewhere, we have a few beds. We're trying to convert one of the modules now temporarily into an infirmary, but the new infirmary will be able to meet the needs of that population.
But Tommy, my concern is that the folks at FDC get proper nutrition because it is a kind of a silo, and proper exercise and proper sun. And I think Bob Merce knows way more than I know about that. He said if you're in that kind of facility, you got to really have maybe even a special diet. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'm just passing that on for what it's worth.
Well, we'll pass the feds have a similar menu schedule as we do. We have a 6-week cycle, and we provide 8 different types of diets. So that would be one of the things the medical staff, and we contract with a dietitian that will work with the FDC to see what are the dietary needs of the folks that we want to transfer over there versus if they can meet their dietary needs. If they can't, then they won't transfer over. We'll keep them where they are to make sure they get the nutrition that they need to for whatever condition they might have. Or it could be religious diets as well, because we have quite a few people on religious diets.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for Tommy, Mark.
Sure.
Okay, Tommy, on your pilot project regarding the pretrial assessment instrument, is that going to apply to all circuits or only certain circuits? Because this affects pretrial population.
I believe initially it's going to be only certain circuits. I think it's 2, but I'll let Sana update the commission next week. She'll come in because we have a lot of updates to provide too on the reentry side of the house because of the $4 million that we received from the legislature. So she'll update the legislature with respect to contracts for that 4 million, and this will be one of the highlights. Will be the pretrial assessment instrument, and she has another surprise. I'll let her talk to you guys about.
Yeah, I would hope that at least, HCCC has a large pretrial
Yeah.
population overcrowding. So I would hope you would include HCCC, or at least
Yeah.
look at basically the stats among the circuits.
Yeah, just so you know, we just took the former acting Chief Justice
Yeah.
McKenna and the Third Circuit Court judges and the court and deputy courts administrator through HCCC and Kulani. Just
Last week.
HCCC week before last. I asked the deputy courts administrator to schedule an appointment with me for the new Chief Justice to go over a bunch of issues with him, particularly putting a multi-purpose courthouse in any new facility we build, but also talking to him about the jail diversion and the bail issue, because we have a lot of folks in custody with $15, $25, $50 bail, and we're spending, $230 a day on those folks when they needs could be better served in the community. And this is one of the reasons why Sana and Kelsey, who is our acting intake service and administrator, who's from the Big Island, by the way, this is why we put in an application for the JAG grant. The AG's grant. And so we got approved. We asked for 178,000. We got approved for 156,000 and change, and that'll be sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
I presented on our legislative bills, and you might be aware that SCR 89, which requests the commission to establish an advisory committee to develop recommendations for the implementation of alternative models for rehabilitation and restorative justice on Oahu. And we will be doing that because it's a concurrent resolution, but also the SCR 60 passed for DCR to provide an update on the findings of the proof of concept study entitled Breaking Cycles. So are you folks responding to that since it is a concurrent resolution?
Well, that'll be the first presentation of that will be in July, right?
Okay.
And then 3 months later, 4 months later, we do another one. So yeah, we are preparing for that. We have a meeting scheduled next week with the key players, but I want to make it clear, and I try to explain this to the legislature. The Breaking Cycles report addresses the system as a whole, not just the OCCC.
Yeah.
And so when we looked at all the recommendations, we took 2 pages of the recommendations and provided them that we felt was appropriate, and provide them to DAGs and our consultants to include in the planning and design for OCCC. So I want to stress to the advisory panel that the Breaking Cycles report is a system-wide report, and it's not just all on DCR. It's really the courts need to be spoken to, the prosecutors and police need to be spoken to and brought into the fold in order to do jail deflection and diversion. Those are areas on the SIMS model 0 and 1 I have no control over. That's really for the initial police contact with the person and diversion at that point to a crisis center or first appearance before the court. Then the court decides to do some kind of diversion. Once they come to us, then there's limited. I don't have the ability to release them. That's really up to the courts and HPA. But what I can do is whatever we can do, we will on our end to try to get people out as quickly as possible that will not without jeopardizing public safety. So we'll provide all that in the presentation of where we stand and provide the overview and remind the audience, whoever shows up, is that the Breaking Cycles report is about the system, not just DCR, and not about a single facility.
But the Breaking Cycles report does have a number of recommendations that can be implemented by the department that do not require a new facility. They could be implemented today. I don't have it in
that's
front of
correct.
me
And we're
right
looking
now.
at them, and some of the things we can do and some we can't. We took 2 pages of the recommendations specifically for the design of OCCC. That doesn't mean we're not looking at the rest of the report again for each of the facilities in our reentry efforts, because we are. So this is why we went for the grant for the pretrial assessment instrument. So I think when Sana provides an update, you guys will see that there's a lot of things we're doing now that we didn't have the resources or the staff before. We're still short on staffing in our reentry office, but we have funding now and resources. So we're trying to make that connectivity to the community and community-based groups out there to help us successfully help these guys re-enter back into society. And when I say guys, I mean both the males and the females. not just
Okay.
one.
I have,
Thank you.
I agree with you, Director, that it is a system change that needs to go forward, and it's not just your department. So I guess what my question is where are you folks in coordinating with the judiciary, which is fundamentally a very important part of achieving these particular goals?
Well, we meet every month with the judiciary, as does the prosecutors, to look at diversion and deflection. And I already asked us to meet with the new Chief Justice, to the Deputy Courts Administrator, and waiting to hear back for that. And so during that meeting, I plan to take the leadership team to the meeting, and I'll let the Chief Justice know there's a number of issues we want to discuss. And so he will bring the right people to the table as well.
Who do you meet with right now?
Right now, we meet with Dalen Rose Heather, who's the Deputy Courts Administrator.
Yeah.
We meet with the guy on the Big Island. I forget his name. He is Rob's boss. But he's a Deputy Courts Administrator on the Big Island. The Chief Administrative and Criminal Court judges show up for the meetings when they can, based on their calendars. And then we have the prosecutors at the table. We have ourselves at the table. We have HPA, the Hawaii Patrolling Authority, at the table. We have DOH at the table. And we have Dr. Michael Champion out of the governor's office at the table as well.
I think you should request that the judiciary appoint a judge to also serve on that committee.
Oh, that's a good point.
Commission, because a lot of times, from my experience in serving the judiciary, that kind of information, at least the dialogue that's going on and the goals that are trying to be achieved, are not passed on to judiciary. When I say judiciary leadership, I mean the judges themselves. Okay. The second question I have is pretrial assessment tool. What have you coordinated that particular instrument with the judiciary's probation department?
I'm not sure. That's why I didn't want to speak too much to it, because Sana, she's a SME with her staff, so she's going to provide a presentation next month regarding that. I'll relay these questions to her so she's prepared to answer them.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to sort of figure out, because I know that the judiciary's probation uses their own assessment tool, and trying to coordinate so that there is the same language is being spoken, because different assessment tools work differently, would be critical in terms of making progress on this.
Yeah. Well, this is off the subject some, but one of the other things I wanted to address with the Chief Justice is that a lot of times when the probationers are given a sanction, they're just doing dead time. So if they're going to be in our custody, I want some idea of what the expectations from the judiciary with respect to what type of assessments do they want us to do? Would the courts consider them valid, and then would they support the recommendations that come out of those assessments? Because sometimes they're doing 6 months, they're doing 8 months, and they're just sitting there, and it's not really good for anybody.
Right, I agree with you. Yeah. I think that's a worthy inquiry to make.
Yeah.
So, Tommy, with the grant that you got, it is also the initial part is developing the assessment tool, or are they going to be importing an assessment tool and trying it out?
They're going to be developing an assessment tool.
Okay.
And
so that's where the judiciary would be good to have them.
Yeah. So I'll relay this I'll relay it to, I'm sure Terrence and Kelsey already thought about this, because they both work closely with the judiciary, but I'll make sure that the DEP-R, Sana, covers it. But my understanding is it is to develop a tool, and then we show proof of concept for the tool that it works, and then we seek funding down the line. But I think this initial year will be just the development of the tool itself.
Yeah. Okay. Your mic is off.
Thank you, Tommy. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
With the Act 292 on the restrictive housing bill. So as you know, the restrictive housing bill, it will be difficult for the department to comply with all the provisions of the bill. And unfortunately, Representative Bellotti had canceled all of the meetings that the working group were supposed to have up to the end of the session. I introduced a bill to amend parts of the bill, parts of the law, but it didn't get a hearing. So it will be difficult for the department to comply with all the provisions of the bill, but we will be able to comply with some provisions of the bill. So I think I'll work with Kristen when she comes back, so you guys can, so the commission can see that we're doing what we can with the resources we have. It really, because we only have one medium security male prison and one female prison, it's hard for us to move folks around at the higher levels of custody because they have really nowhere to go except that facility or to the mainland. So I just wanted to say that. And then there was a bill before the legislature that died in conference that required us to bring inmates back. I think it was 30% in 3 years. It may have been amended, but I want to make it clear, because we don't control the population of the folks sent to us, then it's hard for me as a director, or any director for that matter in corrections, to say what our population is going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and be required to bring folks back, a certain percentage of the folks back, without considering the amount of folks in our custody at the different facilities. So while that bill died this year, I suspect it will come up next year, and we'll try to fight the good fight again, because we want to bring everybody back for sure, but because we don't control the population. So maybe when I'm talking to the Chief Justice, I'll talk to him about what authority, if any, can the courts give to the director of the Department of Correctional and Rehabilitation with respect to the pretrial population, because that's where our biggest concern is in the jails, because it's bleeding over into the sentence population. What can we do to safely help the courts make an informed decision? But at the same time, what can the courts do to help the director of the correction and rehabilitation manage that population without negatively affecting public safety? That's it. I'm spent, guys.
Thank you, Tommy. It's still early in the day.
All right. Yeah.
All right, guys. Any more questions for the director at this time? You know, as we lean into our next agenda item, which is 10, public comment, I'll just open it up at this time for those of you who are in the room and online for any comment that you want to make to the commissioners on the DCR report, as well as any other issues that were not on the agenda. This is the time and moment to do that. George, help me out with what you see. Thank you.
Either one of you have any comments or things you want us to discuss in the future?
Cat Brady, go ahead.
Oh, wait a minute. We're in the room right now.
Okay, go ahead.
Come stand over here so that people can see you
Thank you, Martha.
and introduce yourself, please.
Yes.
Paliku.
Hi, Director. My name is Charles Wagner Smith.
Yes.
Here is representing Ohana Pakele. And we'd like to thank you for your efforts in promoting the Makahiki ceremonies in Halava and Sagaro. And as we speak today, we're meeting with the warden and other staff at Kulani, and we're opening up more Olelo and spiritual activities up there at Kulani. And we really think this is a foundational step for the inmates in all the facilities, and try to help them rehabilitate and get back into society on a good footing, and put their time served to a good use instead of just warehousing. And on behalf of the whole board, we'd like to thank you for everybody's efforts, especially at Halava and Sagaro. And we hope to be working with you in the future. And thank you so much.
And helping us expand.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Kat, go ahead.
For something not on the agenda, but I would like the commission to talk about, is the SHIP program. It's not really a program, it's lockdown, and it's in Saguaro. And people have died there. I know that they reduced the population somewhat, but to be incarcerated for 23 hours, 22 hours, and 21 hours is just, it really affects somebody's mental health. So I hope that the commission actually investigates what's going on, keeps us apprised of how many people are in there and what is actually happening in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. We can follow up on that.
I want to make a comment about that too. Relating to that, Tommy, it's my understanding if Hawaii passes a law such as Act 292, that our contract must conform with that act, correct?
Yes,
So we have now time limits on restrictive housing, so that's going to impact the SHIP program, is my understanding.
that is correct.
Okay.
A footnote from me here. Some people regard it in some courts, restrictive housing might be some kind of cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. I take that seriously. Constitution being the moral imperative of this country, regardless of what some politicians say. So I think it's really important we tackle that.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kat. Carrie Ann?
Yes, thank you, commissioners. I just want to make some comments and some things to put on the agenda. I think this is in past meetings. This relates to the proposed new jail construction. There had been made mention previously that there allegedly is a report, an engineering report, that has concluded that the OCCC at its current site is beyond renovation. It was the subject of an op-ed piece this past week in the Honolulu Advertiser. And if that can be asked for, because I believe that the commission asked for that document in the past, and if you have not received it, it can be put back on the radar screen and it can be shared publicly with the community, because that's really relevant if we're going to spend over $1 billion for a public-private prison contract that we actually have exhausted and have conducted due diligence. Second, I'm wondering at the future, this is relating to, again, this jail construction, what is the status, and to hear from the director, negotiations. On one hand, we hear we're proceeding with the new construction, but we've also heard more than once that the governor has been negotiating with the federal government to perhaps purchase the FDC. So exactly what is the plan and what is the status of that? The community should be appraised of that. Third, in terms of pretrial fairness, we've heard that there were 2 bills that died, one of them which mirrored changes in some other jurisdictions such as Harris County in Texas that significantly reduced the pretrial population. And while I'm encouraged to hear that we're looking at downsizing the jail, we still need to address the drivers of pretrial population, which is to divert people in the first place.
Right.
When you look at the record of the pretrial bill, we have a lot of opposition, sometimes from other government stakeholders. So when we look at systems, we need the cooperation of police, attorney general, oversight commission, DCR, all of the actors in community. And I keep seeing consistently opposition from prosecution, attorney general, et cetera. I don't see DCR's name on this, but I also do not see DCR supporting pretrial diversion. And so when I'm hearing that we don't have the authority, we can't control come to our doors, the department has the authority to support pretrial fairness, and I haven't seen it in practice. And relating to that, I've heard about this possible new instrument. New instruments of validation can be problematic. Sometimes it's not validated. There can be racial disparities. But I don't know what instrument is being used, but I know that New Jersey has been very successful in reducing its pretrial population, and that was led by their Chief Justice Stuart Rabiner, a former federal prosecutor, and they have sustained decreases in pretrial population, and they use an instrument called PSA, which is provided for free from Arnold Ventures. Now, I'm not essentially saying we need to follow that path, but if the department is looking at implementing some sort of instrument, if something is free and if it has been successful, we should look at that system-wide. And otherwise, again, I just want to thank the commission for having these conversations, for bringing things out into the open. And just last, on SCR 89, this advisory body that's being created, will that in any way, will the department slow down and stop this process and let that move forward and hear more about alternatives in diversion, restorative justice, or will they keep going full speed to build this new jail? Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Appreciate that. I'm just curious, Tommy, if I can ask real quick, you still there?
Yeah, Tommy's still
I
there.
will not entertain questions from the audience, nor should the commission ask me questions from the audience because it's not on the agenda.
That's fine, Tommy. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on there, George, I didn't see?
But can I just respond a little bit to what Carrie Ann just said?
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, I think, you know, the idea that Mr. Johnson brokered about an assessment is one that's really, really complicated because the judiciary doesn't use any type of assessment that the department is proposing or would propose. It would be the judiciary has their own assessment, risk assessment tool that's used by probation. And any recommendation to a judge when we talk about how an inmate or an individual processes through the system, whether they're diverted or not diverted, is basically that information comes from a probation officer who presents to the judge at a particular type of hearing. So we're a long, long ways from even having, we just need to know a lot more about what the department is doing with respect to their proposed assessment. But even if this particular assessment was ready to go, the space between how it would affect the system as is today is remarkably huge, and I don't see it happening in any form or fashion, at least in the current circumstances that exist as the judiciary works.
Thank you for that comment, Mark.
You know, can I make a comment too? It's a separate one, but this is about the support of prosecutors, because your experience on Kauai with the current prosecutor, you know, they have a reentry specialist on the Big Island for 40 years under John Ono, Jay Kimura, Charlene Eboshi, Mitch Roth. They always had social workers on staff. And one example is that Charlene initiated that social workers from their office would go up and hold group meetings at Kulani with people soon to be released. The current prosecutor doesn't do any of that. And how one personality can make such a difference in how the system was moving forward as a whole. It's
Absolutely.
it's sad.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true.
That's it. That's my soapbox.
Ron, anything you want to say, Ron?
Nope, thank you.
Mike, anything else?
Oh, someone's
No,
hand
I'm good.
No, Kim Coco has a question.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to clarify, the agenda mentions overview of commission's legislative priorities. And it also mentions items to be discussed as monthly update from Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Those two agenda items can be broadly interpreted so that Carrie Ann's question, there is room to answer Carrie Ann's question. This has to do with one of the legislative, is it not? Was the issue that Carrie Ann brought up, was it never on the commission's legislative priorities? Did it not intersect? And then secondly, does it not also relate to the Department of Correction Rehabilitation's monthly update?
Some of them did, some of them did not. Yeah.
Such as the engineering report does not fit under anything on our current agenda. You know, so we can again put it on a future agenda, but not on the current agenda. The status of the new OCCC that Tommy did give us an update on that. The question about will we buy the FDC, I don't see how that fits in our current agenda, but we can add it to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, this is Deputy Attorney General Charles Lee. I just want to clarify, Director Johnson does not have to answer the public's question. He's here to work with the commission, and the commission has the subpoena power, but and which requires a formal vote and process, but
Yeah.
not an informal Q&A during a meeting. Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you so much for the clarification. I appreciate it.
So if you'd like us to add things on the next agenda, please state them now to make sure we can address them. So we already have what Carrie Ann is interested in.
Yeah, well, or you can email us, Representative.
Yeah.
The SHIP program.
Yeah, I got that down, Kat. The ship
Okay.
is the monitor. There
Yes.
are things that are being worked on. I'm not ready to report on, but we are aware of the ship program and we are aware of the contract monitor. But we will discuss that in the next meeting. Commissioners, when you look at the agenda for the next meeting, it falls on Kamehameha Day, which is a state holiday. So I'm looking at the following week of June 18th. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait a minute, someone else is checking. Ron is
Yeah,
checking.
June 18th is okay with me.
Okay, it's okay with Ron. It's okay with me. Mike Town, is it okay with you?
Okay with me.
Thank
And
you,
you have-
everyone. So we're looking at June 18th at 10 o'clock a.m. on Maui. And George, make sure that if they knew we were coming, let them know we're changing MCCC visit to the 18th.
Correct. Yes, thank you, Chair.
Yeah. With no further meeting, thank you everyone for being here, being a part of this discussion. We appreciate your commitment to the efforts of the commission and all that we do. And thank you for your work in assisting us with the legislative journey that we just completed. We see you all in the next month. So you folks have a nice month until we see you again. Aloha.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.